And that quote haunted me every day post-college because I felt like I was just, this is what I'm thinking about doing. I'm so terrified. I'm so worried about this. And it was a very distinct, very profound, sacred experience where nobody tells a story better than God. And when you trust him and you realize that he's the great orchestrator, we all need the atonement and we all need the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it doesn't matter who you are, eventually your life will go through Gethsemane.
Welcome to the Successful Saints podcast, where we share stories of faithful stewardship and success to inspire you to grow your talents and build the kingdom. Today's guest, Clint Pulver, is an Emmy Award-winning speaker, best-selling author, and professional drummer whose journey took him from chasing the skies as a pilot to becoming one of the most sought-after voices on leadership and purpose. In this conversation, Clint opens up about the diagnosis that changed the course of his life, how faith and covenant sustained him through the leap of entrepreneurship, and why he believes true success is found in passion, purpose, and putting God first. Welcome to the podcast, Clint.
Thanks, Scott. It's good to see you. Back in the day, serving as bishopric together. Those are good days.
To get started, let's dive into a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I've been a professional keynote speaker for over 8 years and travel the world talking about employee retention and trying to help organizations create a place that their people never want to leave. I've been a professional drummer for over 25 years. And I've toured and recorded, and music and drums have been a massive part of my life. Most important part of my life is being a great dad and a great husband. I've got 3 little crazy kids and an amazing wife, and they're my total world. I love the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is also the foundation and the forefront of everything that I do, and just blessed to be able to take that to the world in kind of a secular way and love what I do. I'm very lucky, very blessed.
It's great to hear your and the background that you've come in, because you've got a lot going on. And right now you're currently bishop. So tell me a little bit more about how you balance your work life with being a bishop, especially where you travel.
I think, well, you know this because you were one of them. Having great counselors and having great people to serve alongside you is absolutely key. People that lift in every capacity on a ward level and stake level to support an absentee bishop is the only way that it happens. It is definitely challenging. There's a lot of red-eye flights that I take on Saturday night to be home for Sundays. I miss a lot of young men's and a lot of young women's activities because I'm gone during the week. But I love what Elder Bednar talked about, his analogy of spinning the plates. There's a lot of plates that I'm spinning. Sometimes I'm at home and I'm spinning the plate of being a father and a husband. And then when I'm at church on Sundays, I'm spinning that plate as bishop. And when I'm on the road and performing and touring, I'm spinning that plate. So the goal is really truthfully, wherever you're at, be where you're at. But also you can't let the plate of home fall. You can't let the plate of bishop fall. You can't let the plate of your business and how you provide fall. And so there's a constant, I don't even know if I would call it a juggle as much as it is prioritizing time management and focus on wherever you are, be where you're at. Right now, I'm here and I'm with you. And my phone's buzzing. I've got other things going on, but like right here, I'm spinning this plate. And I think quality time and quality attention and focus allows me that when this is over, I'm spinning another plate. But while I'm here, it gets that full attention, and that creates a level of quality time, momentum that next time when we're back together, hopefully I did my part to spin this time, to spin this moment well enough that it allows me to be able to do all of the things that I'm doing. I don't do it perfectly, but to me, that's how I process it. Wherever I'm at, whatever I'm doing, give it the gift of my attention.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's a lot to balance and to juggle. And as a business leader and entrepreneur and a dad, and then add your calling on top of it, it definitely becomes a lot. Let's go back a little bit to your more earlier years of you loved to drum. Where a lot of people are familiar with your story of becoming a drummer. But let's jump a little bit ahead from there. And let's talk about how'd you get from drummer to entrepreneur and then to motivational speaker?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a helicopter pilot. I always wanted to fly. That was always the goal. It was never to be a musician. It was never to be a professional speaker. And I came home from my mission and I got diagnosed with an eye disease. and I went to go renew my driver's license at the DMV, and I couldn't renew my driver's license because I couldn't pass the vision test. And they're like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. Like, I drove here today." And the lady's like, "Well, you're not driving back." And I ended up at the Moran Eye Center with the top leading authority in a rare degenerative eye disease called keratoconus. And as a young 21-year-old kid, my eyes were as bad as an 87-year-old's. And I'll never forget that doctor saying, "You're going to go blind by the age of 31." And then he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to fly. I want to be a helicopter pilot." And he said, "That'll never happen. It'll never happen for you. Um, right now, at the rate that everything's going, um, we just hope you don't go blind." And my whole life changed. And I ended up going to college. I went into the medical field, and I was totally miserable in that space. I worked as an orthopedic specialist. And I remember just thinking, there has to be something else in my life. Like, there has to be something bigger than what I'm doing. Mark Twain was the person that said there's two important days in a person's life: the day you're born, and then the day you figure out why. And for me, I just felt like I wasn't born to do this. And I sat down with two of my buddies and I said, "Wouldn't it be crazy if you could find a job, you could find a career, something to live for in your life that played on three P's, is what I call them: passion, purpose, and the ability to provide? What if you could find a job that just it made you excited, it filled you up, it was something that you intrinsically loved to do? Second, it had a sense of purpose where you felt like you were doing something bigger than yourself. You were bettering the world because you did this. And then third,
Right.
you could pay the bills. You could provide in a way that was sufficient for you and your family." And both my buddies were like, "I just don't know if that exists." Like, look at a school teacher, they're full of passion and purpose, but
Mhm.
every summer they're looking for extra jobs so they can make ends meet or they can provide for their family. Or look at a doctor making really great money and then the stress and the malpractice and time away from family. And my friend said, "What you're asking for is so rare." And when he said that, it triggered a quote for me, Scott. And the quote was shared with me in college. And the quote is by Oscar Wilde. And the quote says, "To live is the rarest thing in the world, for most people merely exist." And that quote haunted me every day post college because I felt like I was just existing. Like every day it was kind of
Mhm.
repeat. Like I was living for the weekends. I was just not stoked to be there on Monday. I was just existing. And 2 weeks after that conversation, I quit my job and I announced it to the world. And I chose to become a professional speaker,
Wow.
um, which is crazy because that day I quit my job was also the day I went on my very first date with my wife, Kelly. And she's like, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "Nothing. I'm currently unemployed." And she's like, "What's the plan?" And I said, "I think I want to be a motivational speaker." And it's a miracle that we got married. But I can honestly say 8 years later now, Scott, the day I quit my job was the day I truly started living. And that was diving into this world of entrepreneurship, of working 80 hours a week so I don't have to work 40. The pursuit of really those three P's: passion, purpose, and the ability to provide. And it's been one of the best days of my life, for sure.
That's crazy. That's a fun story. As you've grown and progressed in your journey here, being an entrepreneur and taking that day that you quit and taking a wild ride of trying to make something out of nothing, and really you had a major career shift. I imagine you didn't really have much experience in the public speaking before, but tell me about how God guided you through that process.
Yep. It was a difficult time because I even though I wasn't married, I had a house payment, I had bills, I had a car payment, I had um, still like the realities of life that were there. And I remember the power of covenants is really cool because God makes the terms of those covenants. You don't make the terms, God does. And I remember
Right.
sitting in the operating room having a conversation um, in my mind with the Spirit, just saying like, "This is what I'm thinking about doing. I'm so terrified. I'm so worried about this." And it was a very distinct, very profound, sacred experience where I felt like I felt the whisperings of the Spirit. I felt the promptings. Everybody hears the Spirit in different ways. And I'll never forget this moment when it was take the step. But here's the deal: if you do, I promise I'll sustain you. I promise, like, this will work. We can make this happen. But when I need you, I need you. When I call you to serve in this church, I need you to serve. When I ask you, when someone calls up and they want you to go and do a fireside or go play the drums in South Dakota for a stake event or like I need you. I need you. If you will covenant to invest and to put me first, and we do that anyways, right? As covenant people. But it was that very sacred reality of, okay, I'm going to do this because I'm doing this with God. And there's this covenant that's been put in place of we always put him first. I remember when I got called as bishop, I was like, I did. I had the thought. I'm like, I'm the busiest guy. Like I'm never here. I travel constantly. I'm all over the place. Like there's so many better qualified people to do this. But because of that moment that I had, I remember looking at the stake president and saying like, yes, yes, I'll do it. And he said, he goes, wow, you answered that very quickly. And I remember Kelly telling him, we answered it quickly because we already made the decision years ago. We
Wow.
already made that decision. And when the Lord calls, when the Lord asks, we go. And that's the deal. That's the covenant. And any level of success that I have ever been able to obtain is directly correlated to the moments where I have chosen to listen to God, follow God, to keep my covenants, to put him first. And we will continue to do that. And all of the glory is his, all of the success, but to be used as an instrument and the good that we have been able to do in promoting the gospel of Jesus Christ. Even what I do on stage in a secular manner, it's all the gospel of Jesus Christ and the hope and the thought that a boss might go back and create a better dynamic where somebody that works for them goes home and they get to be a better mom or a dad, and we're creating better families. And everything that I talk about is the gospel of Jesus Christ done in a secular way. It's all about him. And it's just so fun to be a part of that. It doesn't mean it's always easy. There's been massive amounts of sacrifice and it still requires faith daily. But if we keep that forefront, that foundation of keeping him first, and when he asks, we go, God's the greatest investment that you could ever make. And he has made more out of my life than I ever could have on my own.
That's really cool. As you've taken your message and written your message, how has the gospel influenced how you choose to impact the world?
I just think it's the best way to live. There's a lot of investments you can make, and choosing to make an investment in God, choosing to put him first, choosing to serve, choosing to again live to the covenants that I promised I would, it just writes a better story. And I've seen it firsthand. Being a bishop, dude, the most sacred experience is watching the triumph of a soul and how you intimately really get to see someone from their darkest of dark to how when they choose God and when they make that investment and they put him first, you get a front row seat to the atonement. You get a front row seat to transformation in the coolest ways ever. I was all in before I got called as a bishop, but now after I'm in my 5th year now as a bishop, seeing what I have seen and not just for myself personally, but how that kind of dedication, that kind of commitment, that kind of faith, that kind of consistency in the gospel of Jesus Christ yields the greatest results. Nobody tells a story better than God. And when you trust him and you realize that he's the great orchestrator, I don't know, you're just setting yourself up to live the best life that you can. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's got darkness and hard times. Like that's a part of it. You read anybody in scripture, anybody in church history, like anybody that chose God. I don't know anybody that really had an easy go at it, but man,
Yeah.
God wrote the best stories with those people, and they lived a life of significance, not just a level of success. And I know this podcast is all about the successful saints, but for me, it's been really cool to see how there's also been a level of significance with that success. And to me, that's the best way to live.
For someone who's wanting to get started in having a greater impact on the world and living a life of serving the Lord and building his kingdom, what piece of advice would you offer them?
I grew up in Heber City, Utah, Scott, and I wrestled for 8 years, and the greatest wrestler of all time graduated from my high school. His name was Cael Sanderson. The dude was a monster. He never lost a match in high school. He went on and wrestled for Iowa State University, never lost. He went on to the Olympics, took gold. Like the guy was like the GOAT, like just a machine on the mat. And my dad was my wrestling coach. And every Friday night when the varsity wrestling matches happened, he would take me to go watch Cael Sanderson. And I remember one Friday night, I looked at my dad and he was like, come on, get in the truck. He's like, it's time. Let's go. And I looked at my dad and I said, I just don't want to go. Like, we go every Friday night. Like, I know Cael's going to dominate. I just don't want to go. And my dad, a really good wrestling coach, he was a great wrestler, a wonderful and amazing dad. He looked at me and he said, listen, he said, Clint, I'll never make you go. He said, but I have one question for you. He said, do you want to be a great wrestler? Do you want to really be good? And I said, yes. And he said, then you got to hang out by the mat. You want to be great? You got to hang out by the mat. And I've always remembered that little moment. Like, if you want to be great at basketball, you got to hang out by the hoop. If you want to be great at swimming, you got to hang out by the pool. And I think the same thing applies to elements of the gospel of Jesus Christ. If there are people that are striving to live a better story, how do you associate with people that are living a better story? We should do whatever it takes to associate with the astonishing people in our lives. And the gospel of Jesus Christ is so cool because it's this international network that connects all of us. And there have been so many influential people in my life, inside and outside of the gospel of Jesus Christ, that were living a life that I wanted to live. They were doing things that I wanted to do. And I call it the principle of tilling the dirt. Like, you got to get in and till the dirt. You don't know if the dirt's good until you dig it up. You got to see what's in there.
Right.
And if there's, something that you're wanting to do, something to experience, whether it's, I want to become a paraglider, I want to be a doctor, I want to learn more about AI. Like, who are the people that are living and breathing that? They're doing it really well. And then go hang out by the mat, go associate, go connect, stay in rookie mode, always be teachable. And as you just associate and you get around that and you till the dirt in those worlds, in those environments, you learn really quickly whether it's for you or whether it's not for you. You learn from other people's experiences. It expedites your success. It de-risks your failure rate. And for me, it's just shown me what's possible. My goodness, he did it, and look at how he did it. And
Yeah.
she did it, and look at how she did it. And then learning how to replicate that and disrupt that to some extent and to make it your own. And then you combine that with God and what he wants you to do and his will. And for me, that's been a major combination of finding some success.
All right. So till the dirt, and
Hang out.
you got to be by the mat.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's really good advice. So was there a moment that your faith and your business collided and you had to make a decision? Because not all business decisions are ones that are going to encourage your faith, but are the logical decision. Did you ever a moment like that? And what did you do?
I think it's been maybe more so than my business versus my faith. Sometimes it's choosing my family and my faith. Like, as a bishop, like, here's an example. I will be gone on the road on tour for 5 days. And then I fly home in the middle of the night. I get in on Saturday. And then on Sunday, I'm gone all day long. And then I fly out again to be back on tour on Monday. And I sit on the stand and I watch as my wife juggles and strives to maintain some level of humanity on the bench with our 3 crazy kids. And sometimes the only time I get to see my kids during the week is when they walk up on the stand and they sit with me. That's really hard. That's really, really hard. It's hard for her, and it's hard for me. And there's times and there's moments in our lives where if you're a covenant-keeping individual where you have bowed your head and you have said yes, you've said yes to Christ, you've said yes to covenants, you've said yes to consecration, you've said yes to serving him. And there are times, I think, perhaps this is based off of the book of Clint, but I think that there are maybe times when God sees if you really meant it.
Right.
Like, did you really mean that? And there are moments where on a Sunday, like, I would rather go home and be with my kids. Like, the natural man, like the desire of just even being, whether it's not the natural man or not, I just would rather go do that than be the bishop.
Yeah.
And so that's always a little bit of the balance. I know that's not necessarily something in my business, but it is something that's real to me. And we struggle with that. And there's moments where, even Kelly, she'll say, I love the gospel of Jesus Christ, but I hate Sundays. And there's just those moments of trying to balance all of those things. And then there are times where I have said, you know what? I'm not taking any more meetings after 2:00 today. And I'm going to go home and I'm going to be with my family. And it's that kind of balance and making sure that yeah, and I struggle with that. I don't know what that right answer is, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But for me, that's always been hard. That's been a hard, difficult thing, and I think I'm not the only, you know, this is the Successful Saints podcast, but I don't think I'm the only successful, semi-successful saint that has struggled with that. I think many of us
Yeah.
as providers or as mothers, as people that are trying to serve and keep our covenants, but also we're trying to win in the home and make sure that our kids receive the attention and the teachings and the support. And so it's a constant struggle, and I'm not perfect at it.
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing a great job. I it's an interesting journey for all of us, especially I feel like every year it's a new balance.
Totally.
Some years you go through different trials and you go through some different expectations. And then even if your calling switches, it's a new dedication of time. It's a new schedule you've got to do. It's a new level of commitment.
I'm coming in my 5th year of bishop. This has been a season. These 5 years have been extremely difficult in lots of different ways. Our kids are at a certain time in life and age that presents certain unique challenges. And 5 years from now, it'll be a different season that will provide its own unique challenges. And so I think,
Right.
I don't know, it comes down to two. I look at Elder Oak's talk of good, better, and best, right? There's good things in your life, there's the better things, and then there's the best things. And I think it comes down to you listening to the Spirit uh, constantly, day by day, and letting the Spirit guide to direct you on what's the best thing you need to be doing right now in this moment to let God prevail. And that's kind of my North Star is certain days to let God prevail. I need to go home and I need to be with my wife. And then there's moments where to let God prevail, I got to go and I got to sit down with this single sister that just lost their husband or this individual that's going through a divorce. And as I try to listen to the Spirit to help me to discern between good, better, and best, and how do I let God prevail, as I try to do that, usually that helps write the better outcome of the story.
What's one of the bigger lessons that you've learned serving as bishop? Has there been a way that your heart has been softened, or what's one of the biggest takeaways you've had?
I think the biggest takeaway is everybody is struggling. Everybody is battling something. I've learned as a bishop, if we were all to gather as a ward and everybody were to put in their problems, like if we could see everybody's issues, everybody's struggles, everybody's darkness, all their temptation, if everybody put that into a big pile, you would take yours back in a heartbeat. you would
Right.
work back because you just don't know. You don't know. You would never think that amazing family that just seems like they've got it all together. Like, oh, if you could really just see. And it's the empathy of nobody's got this figured out. And we all need the atonement and we all need the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it doesn't matter who you are, eventually your life will go through Gethsemane. And nobody eventually your number is going to get called and you're going to have a really hard day. And the adversary is going to test you. Certain trials of your faith are going to happen and everybody's going through something. And I've also learned just the power of the little things sometimes matter the most. Calling people on their birthday. I never thought that would matter. And the impact that little small thing has done. Standing at the doorway and just giving everybody a hug and greeting them. Like those little things, little by little, it's amazing how these little moments can add up to be a lot. And I think sometimes we get lost in all of the programs and the checklists and the things that we're doing or we're not doing. And the two things, you'll remember this, Scott, the two things that I think I've learned the most is ultimately the goal in any leadership calling in the church is to help people feel seen and help connect people to Christ. If you can do that, you create a dynamic where God can win. You create a dynamic where you create an environment where God can create miracles. And as a bishop, I have learned if you can just help people feel seen and you can create an opportunity to connect them to Christ, he does the rest.
There was a moment that you once told me, you said, Scott, you're doing better than you know.
Yeah, you're doing better than you think. Yeah.
You're doing better than you know or you think you are. And I know for me personally, that's come back to me several times of just realizing that, you know what, I'm doing better than I think I am. And I can trust that God has a better view of me than I do. Because I think especially for those that are striving to have an impact, to do more, to become more, it's going to feel like we're always imposters.
Yeah.
I've read several recent studies that talk about those that are achievers. They tend to struggle with imposter syndrome and feeling like they aren't enough or they're just faking it.
Yep.
That's one thing that I've had to keep in mind as I try to do good things, as launching this podcast, be able to do different projects for the church, is to remember that I'm doing better than I know.
Totally.
And to just trust in that and have faith in that, and that I am enough.
Totally.
And so that's one thing that you taught me as a bishop, while you're a bishop, that it's okay. You're going to do better and just keep on going.
And if you could just only see, you know, all of the angels around you, and if you could just see the orchestration of God, and again, that's the power of just continue to choose him. If you just choose him, like, I promise, he's molding the best story. And you're doing better than you think you are. And if you could only see the angels that he has round about you, if you could only see the great story that he is writing, and expect miracles, because when you follow God, that's just what happens. I believe that, and I have seen it in my life and in the lives of thousands of other people. Expect the miracle. You're doing better than you think you are.
Well, thanks for sharing all of your insights and being able to share your stories. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. For those who want to follow a little bit more about your story, what should they know about you?
They can go to all the socials. Hit me up on Instagram, LinkedIn. You can go to clintpulver.com. Always happy to help anybody. Everybody deserves a phone call. So if there's anything I can do, you can find me there.
Thanks for listening to the Successful Saints podcast. I hope that Clint's story reminded you that even when life grounds wondering, God can lift you into something far greater when you put him first. If this episode encouraged you, share it with someone who needs that reminder and that they're doing better than they think they are. Grow your talents, live your faith, and keep building the kingdom. Until next time.